Internal controls and policies in regulatory compliance for European financial data spaces. Effective regulatory compliance in European financial data spaces requires organizations to implement robust internal controls and policies. These measures ensure that businesses can safeguard their operations, mitigate risks, and meet legal and regulatory requirements. In this tutorial, we will explore the key aspects of internal controls and policies and their significance in achieving regulatory compliance. Definition and purpose of internal controls. Internal controls refer to the processes, policies, and procedures put in place to manage and monitor an organization's operations. The primary purpose of internal controls is to minimize the risk of fraud, errors, and non-compliance, while ensuring the reliability and accuracy of financial reporting. Diving into the key components of internal controls, we start with the control environment. This foundational aspect sets the tone for an organization's approach to internal controls, emphasizing the critical importance of integrity and ethical behavior among all employees. It encompasses several factors, including management's philosophy and operating style, the organizational structure in place, and how authority and responsibility are assigned and distributed throughout the organization. Moving on to risk assessment. This component is pivotal in identifying and evaluating the potential risks that the organization might face, whether they originate from internal processes or external factors. Through a thorough risk assessment, we can effectively prioritize which controls need to be implemented to mitigate these risks, ensuring that our approach to internal controls is both targeted and effective in safeguarding the organization's assets and ensuring the integrity of its financial reporting processes. Transitioning to control activities. These are the concrete policies and procedures that we put in place to mitigate risks and ensure that we're in compliance with all relevant regulations. These activities span a broad range, including the segregation of duties to prevent conflicts of interest, the establishment of approvals and authorizations to ensure that all transactions are reviewed by the appropriate personnel, the implementation of physical controls to secure assets, the deployment of information processing controls to safeguard data integrity, and the execution of reconciliation procedures to verify the accuracy of our financial information. Moving forward to information and communication, this component is crucial for the effective operation of our internal controls framework. It's all about ensuring a smooth and efficient flow of pertinent information throughout the organization. This means making sure that all our employees have access to the necessary information they need to fulfill their responsibilities and make well-informed decisions. It's about creating an environment where information is not just available but also communicated, effectively allowing for a transparent and informed operational process. Turning our attention to monitoring, this aspect involves the ongoing review and assessment of the effectiveness of our internal control systems. It's a critical component because it ensures that any deficiencies or weaknesses within our controls are identified promptly and addressed accordingly. When discussing the types of internal controls, it's important to differentiate among preventive, detective, and corrective controls, as each plays a unique role in our internal control framework. Starting with preventive controls, these are the measures we put in place to prevent errors or irregularities from happening in the first instance. This category includes implementing segregation of duties to reduce the risk of fraud, establishing authorization requirements to ensure that transactions are reviewed and approved by appropriate personnel, and ensuring adequate physical security measures are in place to protect assets. Moving on to detective controls, these are crucial for identifying any errors or irregularities that might have slipped through our preventive measures. These controls help us catch issues post-occurrence, enabling us to respond promptly. Examples of detective controls include conducting regular internal audits to review and assess the effectiveness of our control environment, generating exception reports to highlight outliers for further investigation, and performing reconciliations to ensure the accuracy of our financial records. Lastly, we have corrective controls, which come into play once an error or irregularity has been detected. The purpose of these controls is to address and rectify the issues identified by detective controls. This can involve making adjusting entries to correct financial records, taking disciplinary actions against those responsible for the errors or breaches, and implementing process improvements to prevent similar issues from occurring in the future. Each type of control is integral to a comprehensive internal control system, ensuring our operations run smoothly and securely. In addressing policies for regulatory compliance, we begin with the Code of Conduct and Ethics. It's essential for organizations to establish a code of conduct and ethics that clearly outlines the expected behavior and ethical standards for all employees. This policy should comprehensively cover areas such as conflicts of interest, confidentiality, gifts, and entertainment, among other relevant topics, ensuring that employees understand the ethical framework within which they should operate. Next, we have the Data Security and Privacy Policy. In light of the growing concerns over data breaches and privacy issues, it's imperative for organizations to have robust policies in place to protect sensitive financial data. This policy needs to address critical aspects like data classification, encryption, access control, and data retention, providing a clear roadmap for safeguarding data against unauthorized access and breaches. Moving on to the Anti-Money Laundering (AML) policy. These policies are vital for ensuring compliance with regulations designed to prevent the financial system's use for money laundering or financing terrorist activities. The AML policy should detail procedures for customer due diligence, monitoring of suspicious activities, and the obligations related to reporting such activities to the appropriate authorities. Lastly, the whistleblowing policy plays a crucial role in promoting an ethical organizational culture. This policy encourages employees to report any suspected unethical behavior or regulatory violations they observe within the organization. It should clearly outline the reporting channels available to employees, the confidentiality measures in place to protect the information, and the protections against retaliation for those who come forward with concerns. The implementation and enforcement of internal controls and policies necessitate a comprehensive strategy. For this to be effective, organizations must establish a robust governance structure that clearly assigns roles and responsibilities to individuals. It's also crucial to provide adequate training and awareness programs to ensure that all members of the organization understand the controls and policies in place. Moreover, to guarantee that these controls and policies are effectively enforced, regular monitoring, audits, and testing should be conducted. In conclusion, internal controls and policies play a critical role in achieving regulatory compliance in European financial data spaces. Based on the implementation of robust internal controls and well-defined policies, organizations can protect their operations, mitigate risks, and ensure compliance with legal and regulatory requirements.